I got a surprise for you. I know, we try to get athletes, analysts, reporters. We've had CEOs, doctors on the show. This week, we have two comedians, two actors to help liven it up. Unfortunately, guys, and I do apologize to Patrick Hay and to Jonesy. Patrick Hay, you can find Patrick Hay at patrickhay.com. And Jonesy is my good friend from Weird AF News. Unfortunately, we've started a bit of tradition on the show. And it's been kind of remembering people that we've lost. So unfortunately, we're going to start kind of on a low, but it will get better from here. And you guys may not know this, and Jonesy, I know you're in LA, so I'm hoping you're a Laker fan because really there's no other basketball team in LA. Coach and I are huge Laker fans. And obviously this week we lost Elgin Baylor, one of the all-time greats who I don't think gets enough. We don't talk about him enough when we talk about the all-time greats, but he was an 11-time All-Star. The Lakers retired his number 22, been to the finals 8 times. Coach, growing up in LA, I'm sure there's some memories of Elgin.
Oh, absolutely. When you think of the Lakers, the early years of the Lakers, that's who you talk about. Wilt Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, Gail Goodrich. And so we lost one of our icons, and obviously tremendous player, but he was also great in the community, did a lot of great things for a number of people in the community. Obviously, he was with that other LA team there at the end, so we won't talk about them. But at the same time, he was a special man. It's always a pleasure for me to talk about these guys, because if I had a chance to meet them, shake their hands, and I just believe that he was one of the finest men that I've ever met. So hope he rests in peace, and I hope his family is doing well.
It's we always talk about it, like I said early on in the show, because we like to remember these greats and these people who were pioneers. I want to actually share a story with you too. Sarah Cross reached out to me last week and really wanted to applaud you and the kind words you had for her dad, Irv Cross, a few months ago when he passed. And I thought that was really nice of her to, one, that you saw it, and I'm glad that we could do that. And so you guys know, I started, because of Irv Cross, a Sports Fluent Hall of Fame. And Irv Cross, a former sports reporter, was our first inductee. So it was, I think it's something important that we do. Is anyone here not have an NCAA bracket?
I don't.
You don't have a bracket? No, just me? All right, so it's just mine that was busted. So that's good. So you know what? I'm probably in the same boat as you guys. I'm out. So I probably should have been better off not having a bracket. But the story that came out of the NCAA though was the training facilities. Have you guys seen this? Where the guys had this massive stadium, elaborate setup, and the girls had, I think, 2 weights and a yoga mat.
In a hallway, it looked like.
It looked like it was in like a broom closet.
Terrible.
So I've heard conflicting reports that NCAA is supposed to be this non-for-profit and everybody gets the same equipment. Coach, you coached in the NCAA.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
But first of all, I got to give some love. Come on, Jones. We got the Trojans and the Bruins in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I noticed that today. I looked at
California team.
I hate to break. I know you guys. I live in LA, but you guys are gonna hate to hear this. I'm actually from Boston, Massachusetts, so I'm a big time Boston sports fan my entire life.
I have to go. It was
sorry, I didn't Coach.
I'm so
I didn't
sorry,
know.
Coach and Anthony. Please forgive me. I didn't want to break into this earlier, but you guys keep coming back to thinking that I'm an LA fan. I have a lot of respect for the LA teams, of course. Who doesn't respect the Lakers as a sports fan?
Good answer.
And of course,
good.
And both of these college teams that are here in LA. Where I'm from, Boston, we don't have a big time college basketball or college football team, so I never really got into it. Had I been raised out here, man, I probably really would have got into it. I would have picked a side and I would have really embraced it like everybody seems to do out here. I mean, the tickets to a UCLA USC football game, like these prices are more than NFL games. I mean, it was eye-opening for me to see people such rabid college football fans and basketball fans out here. It's pretty cool. And both teams are in the Sweet 16. You got to be happy about that, guys.
No
Patrick,
doubt.
Patrick,
Well,
Patrick grew up like me, in Toronto. So I got to pick whichever team I wanted. Did you kind of pay attention to that, Patrick, or are you just kind of a U of T varsity blues guy?
No. I mean, coming up, I actually in high school I played a lot of ball. I loved ball, and way back then, the teams I loved most, I loved Georgetown, Patrick Ewing. I remember Duke. I remember Dawkins at Duke way back. So those are like some of the teams where we were like, man, it's just like I used to play a lot of ball. Since then, I don't watch as much college ball. Kind of watch a lot more NBA stuff now. But yeah, man, I'd actually have to do some research to see who you said you were in the Sweet 16. I didn't even know we got that far.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anthony, you asked Coach earlier. You were getting into his coaching experience in the NCAA. What I thought you might have been getting into was the exploitation of athletes in the NCAA. I mean, are we all surprised that the women's locker room had this tiny little rack of weights? There's a larger picture going on here, and to me, it seems like I wasn't really surprised. It's like the NCAA that doesn't pay their athletes, that makes billions of dollars off the backs of these athletes that are unpaid. This is not a surprise to me at all.
Jonesy, you're right. And it's unfortunate that we had to see it in real time, what was happening to the ladies. That was unfortunate. And it was really a black eye to the NCAA. And I thought it was big of them to come out and respond and say it was their fault. They need to do better. But pretty soon, all that's going to go out the window because you're going to be able to pay these players. And I mentioned something that's starting to go on that's going to change the game for college athletes, the NFTs that are starting to happen. Now these players are going to be able to monetize themselves even more. And it's going to be a scramble. I mean, you see what's happening with all these trading cards right now.
Sure.
So these players and their jerseys and players who have potential, maybe that's going to become NFL stars that are college players that everybody's going to want a piece of. It's going to be amazing for these college players here pretty soon.
Now, Coach, when I think about these players at that age getting so much money, and I know you had to deal with them coming out into the NFL getting so much money, and I'm sure you have people speak to them about it. Hey, you guys are going to get these big contracts. Listen, this is how you behave in the world of finance. This is how you behave with your lifestyle. Don't blow this money. Okay. We don't want to see, more of these Antoine Walkers and all these guys just being stupid with their funds. Right. I'm a little concerned. How do you address that with these NCAA people? Let's say that this is a success for them and they're getting all this money at the age of 18, 19. What would you tell them? Like, how do you prepare for that?
Jonesy, you're exactly right. I'm really concerned too, because we have seen the National Football League, NBA players, National Football League players, baseball players who are supposed to be young men before they become struggle. Now we're talking about maybe potentially a college freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior that's going to have the potential to have all this money. No one's talked about the issues they're going to have with families, moms, dads, cousins, uncles. Everybody going to want a piece of the pie, let alone what is it? You're going to entitle these players to act and be a whole different way because they're going to have access to cash to do what they want to do. So I don't think anybody's thought about that, but I hope somebody's going to create a company that is going to go around to all the NCAA schools and do something to explain what's going to happen, because no one has ever thought about the mental side of that neither. I mean, you're talking about a young player who's never had money, who has potential to have $150,000 in the bank.
And don't forget, they're not allowed to have agents.
Right.
So my worry is, when does that agent or financial planner, because they're probably going to need someone to help them with their money. Now that financial planner, where does that line get drawn between financial planner, mom and dad? Is that a good option for some?
No, we know that. I'm saying that's my point. I don't think that was well thought out. And then I still don't know, is there a cap on how much a player can get? So if I'm a quarterback in the Pac-12, who's one of the better quarterbacks, and the running back looks at me and I'm getting $150,000 and I'm only getting $20,000, that could be a problem in your locker room.
Mhm.
You know, so I think there's a lot. I think there's
Just
a lot of
it happens with pro athletes when you're talking about millions. Imagine I'm not going to say, look, the immaturity of I remember when I was like 18, 19 years old. I'm not going to be able to handle that when someone else is getting, grown men can't, have trouble with it, and women.
If I had six figures at the age of 19, my spring break plans would have been off the chain.
Are you kidding? 18 years old, you give me six figures. I ain't making it pro.
I'm not coming back from spring break.
You ain't gonna see us again.
In one summer, I ain't making it pro. I'm gonna be on the news. You'd be like, "Yo, you hear the way Patrick went out?" That was crazy. I'm not making it. I'm not making it to the next level.
The end of professional sports.
Right now, this actually opens the door to maybe some kind of educational class to teach them all these different elements of how to handle that level, like that kind of money.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be like a freshman course mandatory for financial awareness planning. And I would even say, look at what I think it was Reebok, or at least Allen Iverson's agent with Reebok, what they did for him by putting that money in a trust.
Yeah,
right? Allen Iverson blew through it all, but now he's going to get another payday at, I think, 50 or 50. Perfect. Right. So maybe they look at, to your point, coach, they have a cap, right? They put some into a trust. And, I've talked about this for a while.
That's not the case.
I know it's not the case now.
Right.
But maybe
but if they don't hurry up and do that, I just think you're setting players up, families up for a tremendous problem. And how some of these things end, think about the player who all he's been around. I hate to say it this way, all his family's been around is drug activity. And the guy from down the street says, "You hand me $20,000, I'm gonna turn it into $2 million." And now this player is in jail, or this player's family's under siege by someone. I just think there's a whole big
think about the women that are going to come around. The problem with that. Can you imagine that?
Problem with women, drugs, booze, gambling, point shaving. That gambling becomes a bigger issue now, right? Because
well, that's why I didn't understand why they say, okay, we understood that the players were not benefiting from the TV contracts, everything that's going. I get all that, but they're still amateur athletes. But hey, look, let's give them an extra $3,000, not an extra $30,000 or $100,000. Because to me, you're opening a huge box. And I think in that box is a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Now, I see both sides though, right? Because other people on scholarship can use the tools that they're learning to make some extra income.
Oh, come on, Anthony. That's not true. That's not true. Players can work. They can work in the morning. They can work in the afternoon if that's what they want to do. I've watched players. I was one of those players that did.
You worked?
Yes.
I found I had no time to do anything.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, but it was easy. I didn't have to do much. But at the same time, I worked, So I'm just saying, I get, to me, they're young. Now is the time for them to learn how to grind. We're going to teach them that it all comes easy. This is all you have to do, and it comes easy. Life is not easy. And I think we're just setting up players for failure. I just really do.
You mentioned, Jonesy, that since you're a Boston guy, it reminded me, so one of our guys now who's playing for the Lakers, who unfortunately has had, so I want to start here with the injury to LeBron James. Coach, is it almost, look, it's never good when a player gets injured, especially when your top two players are out, but could it possibly be a blessing in disguise that him and Anthony Davis are resting, although they're injured, and some of the other players get to figure out their roles and pick up the slack and get ready for the playoffs? Or is this just a terrible team chemistry thing where they're going to be LeBron about out a month? And the reason I brought up LeBron too, obviously we're going to talk about Boston and him buying into I'm assuming to your Red Sox. But do you think it possibly a good thing for the Lakers playoff run?
I don't think so. I think, I still think they're going to be Lakers if they could get both of them back. I think they're hard to beat in the 7-game series, but I think at the same time, you never want to go a very long time without your stars. The chemistry, those guys are trying to find themselves now. And now you interject these guys back into the equation. And you're talking about not one player, you're talking about two. Yeah. And two of the most players in the league at what they do. it just doesn't feel right now. And I hope they both come back, but I don't feel good about it right now.
I agree. I think right now the chemistry is off, and for them to run it back and have a real deep, great run, they need those players on the team right now. Like I think it's going to disrupt the flow, and especially at this time of year is when you really when a lot of teams really start to really make a strong playoff run, and to have two of your stars out, it can throw a big monkey wrench in your system heading into the playoffs.
Well, we're gonna
they're getting head beat in. They're getting beat by the Pelicans right now by 20.
Well, hey, Patrick's Raptors lost to a team that had lost 20 in a row, so we might not. Chemistry's an issue in Tampa or Toronto as well. So, yeah. But
Toronto's just throwing in the towel this year. They're like, man, we ain't at home. We in another country. We ain't never going home this year. Like, they don't care.
I think you're right. Jonesy, how do you feel about a Yankee fan getting a chunk of the Red Sox?
And at the end of the day, it's business, right? I'm okay with it. There was a long time where I really hated the Yankees to the core. And then my team won a few rings in my lifetime. And, some of that ire has gone away for me. And I'm okay with it. I also lived in New York City for 10 years. And so
all right, so I
got a lot of Yankee fan friends. And yeah, I'm okay with it. It's just business, right?
Well, that's why you see Patrick just chilling there on the couch. He's like, "Hey, the Raptors won the championship 2 years ago. We got a long time to wait. It's all good. We're still riding that high here in Toronto." So some NFL moves, Coach, and then we're gonna get to the big subject of the day. But some NFL moves, just quickly, your take. If you had to pick,
here we go.
there we go. You know what? Hold on.
Here comes that.
You're gonna get another one?
Yeah,
oh wow, look at that. Fabulous.
I live here, so I have to, although I have my Laker championship ball here on the other side, so I got my East and West Coast teams.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moves this offseason in the NFL, obviously, and more to come. If you had to pick a team that kind of so far has won in free agency, Patriots, this one's a joke, my Bears, with your guy Andy Dalton, or other, who do you think kind of so far coming out of this free agency as that's a team that has definitely improved their squad?
The Patriots have, for sure. Yeah. There's no question that they stepped up to the plate, spent the money, did the work to get players to come to Boston to go play for the Patriots. I think everybody's got to understand that's sometimes a difficult challenge because he runs it the way he runs it. He's not going to change. And so those players that they traded for, I guarantee you, they're going to be, all in because that's the way he does it. But the team that just still, in my mind, it really made a huge jump is the Cardinals. I really think, with AJ Green, some other guys that they put on the team, you got JJ Watt. I think they're poised to be better in the AFC West. Can they win it? I don't know that, but I think they're gonna be a good team this year.
I felt like the Cardinals actually had a really good offseason last year too. And I was talking about them in, tough division. They didn't do as good as I thought they did. Obviously, they did take a step forward, and I think that they're poised again to take another one for sure. That every week we have to have a second about my Bears. I made this joke last week about the movie Friday, where Ice Cube's sister sets up Smokey with a girl, and she tells him on the phone she looks like Janet Jackson, right? And more like Tito Jackson and Jermaine Jackson. I don't know which Jackson, but definitely wasn't Janet. And that's how I felt this offseason because I was promised Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, and I got Andy Dalton. Do I have any hope? Am I rebuilding?
I'm gonna let Jonesy and Patrick answer that.
Yeah, you're in trouble, brother. I mean, that's
trouble,
just
right?
how it. Yeah, well, yeah. You've had a
got
quarterback
Freddie
problem
Jackson.
for a long time.
Freddie Jackson. That's right. It was Freddie
got Freddie
Jackson.
Freddie Jackson. You are my QB.
You didn't get
Oh.
You're
Michael, man.
everything
You
I
got Tito.
need and more.
You didn't get Michael, man. You got Tito.
I think,
Yeah, you did.
it's-
You absolutely did.
You guys got to put in some work. Like, it's going to be a tough year for you guys, man.
I might be jumping ship.
I think just from what I was reading up, like it looks like New England with the amount of free agents that they went after and the people that they re-signed, including Cam. Next year, I think they could do some damage.
Love to
Cam,
hear all this Patriots talk. It's
well,
great.
I
Great.
thought
Keep
you'd like
saying
this.
it.
You know, I think Cam, here's the thing that I see, right? And coach, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Cam coming in with a chip on his shoulder, right? Like, you know, if he doesn't perform well this year, it's, you know, that's it. He's going to be considered like he's done.
Well, he had a chip on his shoulder last year, and he didn't really
Yeah,
perform that well, did
well,
he?
I think he
Well,
did well the first few weeks until he got COVID, right?
There you go. That's the biggest
Yeah.
thing. People understood once he got COVID what it did to him trying to come back. You know, I watched Myles Garrett struggle with it at Cleveland. I watched Cam Newton struggle with it. There were several other players. Nobody really knows what it did to those players.
Yeah.
You know, we still won't until this year. When this year
Yeah.
starts, you know, where are these players at? You know, having dealt with COVID and just everything that they were dealing with.
I hope
Yeah.
you're right, because
Yeah.
I really was hoping we would move on from Cam. I don't know what we would have done, but I just was hoping, I don't think I need to see this guy again. So I hope you're right. I hope it was COVID, and I hope he can play very well this year. I mean, we certainly went out and, you know, got some tools for him, some skill players and whatnot. And
Mhm.
clearly Belichick wants to control the middle of the field. These are the kinds of moves. He's got tight ends. I
Yes.
think I think the staff realizes that even Cam playing at his best, he's not a chuck the ball down the field guy anymore. And so let's get some pass catching tight ends. Let's work the middle of the field. And I don't know. I hope something works with this. I think we're going to see a run heavy offense as well. It looks like they're building around that. I think we're going to see Cam rush for another 500-600 yards this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I hope Cam can kind of look like the old Cam. I hope it was just a COVID situation, as you guys say.
Yeah, I think not having an off season, right? And you're coming into a system, and you know, when Cam was on I Am Athlete, him and the guys were talking about how complex that system is to learn. So not having an off season, right? Then getting COVID, not being in sync. And that's why I was saying about the chip on his shoulder. I think coming in now with something to prove, you know, Belichick has something to prove because his QB went to Tampa, and granted, he had a lot of weapons down there, but he went to Tampa, won a Super Bowl. And, you know, you keep asking, well, is it the coach or is it the quarterback? Right. I'm sure he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder too, right? Coach, like he pays attention to that, right?
Yeah, oh, no doubt. But I think the COVID part for me with Cam, first of all, if you go back to when the first season first started and watch him throw the football, he looked like a passer. After the COVID situation, you didn't think the guy could throw the ball from here to a wall, you know, and that doesn't
Terrible.
change the player. There was something that created that because he looked fundamentally bad, you know, when he tried to throw the football. So, but you're right. I think Belichick, he's watched Tom Brady go and be successful in another organization. And just the competitive fire of any man, all of us are built like this that are competitors. He wants to go say, okay, I don't need Tom to win a championship. So this is going to be his defining moment as a coach, even though he doesn't need to do anything else great. He's one of the greatest ever to coach the game. But I'm sure he wants to go show the world that, look, I can win without Tom.
So if Cam has a bad season, you know, we're going to cancel him. And I feel like everyone's getting canceled. And I want, this is for everybody now, right? Like they want to cancel Eminem. They want to, you know, cancel M&Ms because there's too many colors together. They want to, you know, they just, everything, it seems that we're going back. And Coach and I, so you guys know, Coach and I, every week we try to talk about, you know, social issues and what's going on and how can we, you know, bring people together. And, you know, when I see all these things being canceled and people going back, like I think there was someone's, you know, people are sending me articles now as well, which is great. There was because I never would have known this. I believe she was the president or CEO something of Teen Vogue magazine. And they
Mm,
went back
yeah.
and looked at some, tweets in the
10 years
past.
ago.
10 years ago,
Yep.
canceled. We talked about The Bachelor and the girl who I guess technically won, and she, went to an antebellum party or antebellum theme party, canceled. Have we, and as comedians, and this is why I wanted you guys on, like, have we become too sensitive? Like, do you feel like you can say the same jokes that you did 10 or 15 years ago? And is that a good or a bad thing?
You definitely are a lot more sensitive. I personally, the kind of comedy that I bring to the table, I've never really worried about being canceled or offending anyone, because that's just not the comedy I do. I do a lot of relationship stuff, observational stuff, cultural stuff, obviously, but I've never been in a situation where any of my jokes have been like, "Hey, you got to watch that one."
But when
Never.
you do relationship bits, Patrick, inevitably you'll be talking about females. Do you ever feel like kind of the sting from that?
No, actually, the way I do it and present it, I even do I act a female's voice in it, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times after a show, it'll be women that come up to me like, "That crap killed me. Like, that was so fun." So it's, I've never really had to worry, but the cancel culture thing, it's tricky. I mean, if you compare like someone going to jail versus someone getting judged on social media, with jail, you do the crime, you go to jail, you do the punishment, you come out, it's done. You try to rebuild your life. But with social media, it seems like it has a much longer lingering punishment that might never go away.
Well, it'll be in your Google rank forever until you can afford to pay for it to go away. That's a problem.
Look, and the other problem is people are picking and choosing, right? Like, look, here's a really bad example. Back, Billy Crystal days in SNL, he used to dress in blackface and be Sammy Davis Jr. No one brings that up. Whereas if someone did that today, obviously, as they should, they're done, right? So, Richard Pryor used to say the N-word a whole lot. That's something now that you can't, you shouldn't. There's so many things, right? I see Coach shaking his head. Coach, you don't know. I got to send you this thing from Patrick where he compares finishing sex and having a press conference. Coach might find that offensive.
I might love it.
He also might love it. So like, that's kind of the stuff that like, I'm scared that if we just cancel it right away, we're talking about, Coach and I talking about, well, let's have a conversation. Let's educate people, because in most cases, someone has done or said something without knowing, meaning they don't understand. Do you guys find like that we're missing out on an opportunity to have conversations because we're just cutting people off?
They certainly do cut people off. Yeah, absolutely. And it's always taken at face value. The intention behind things is never really considered. They just look at the words. We're stuck on the words of things. We're sharing the words, and people are just looking at the words. They're not bothering to dig any deeper than this clickbait. They're not bothering to dig any deeper into what was the context of this situation. What was the intention of the statement or the artistic piece or whatever was done? What was the intention behind it? People have become lazy with that, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They don't even want to allow the person to defend themselves. They look at the words. They don't go any deeper than that surface, and they're very unforgiving, which is extremely sad. This girl that you mentioned earlier, that was what she said was awful. It was 10 years ago. You know how old she was when she said it? I think she was she's like 30 now or something. She was a very, not that it's permissible for someone 20 to do, but like if we were to put all our cards on the table here, is this the same person now than she was before? And so should she have to suffer a job being removed now for the person that she was 10 years ago? We all, I like to think that we all grow in a decade's time, Over every decade, you hope to get you become a better person. You get more clarity, you get more understanding, you become more woke, as they say. I like to think, but this is a situation now where, that is not even taken into consideration. It's not permissible. No one's given the benefit of the doubt. I see people being canceled. Why aren't we canceling AR-15s? We're going to cancel somebody who said some bad words 10 years ago. We got bigger fish to fry. People are shooting up grocery stores, and we're talking about the words that somebody said 10 years ago. This is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a sign of cultural infantilism, and we need to grow the hell up. Sorry.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. No, but you're right. Like when we grew up, I think all of us, it was sticks and stones, right? May break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And now it seems, well, names are the worst thing you could do.
We're very, very hung up on words and names. It's very strange. But meanwhile, we're walking around on a planet that's toxifying right under our feet. And what the hell are we doing about it? Meanwhile, I go to a grocery store, I may take a bullet to the neck. What are we doing about these things? Are we really concentrating on the right things? Are we putting our resources to the right? There are all of these organizations that are, they just make it their mission, these people to, social justice warriors, and they're out there and they think that they're doing good by putting Jimmy Kimmel on blast for being in blackface 15 years ago on some show that no one ever watched. But the reality is these resources are really wasted. We have real problems in the culture, real problems. People are really suffering, man.
Yeah. Coach, I see you nodding your head. So
Jonesy he's so right on. I mean, I do think they've gone too far, but it makes me think of things where we haven't gone too far. The situation that's going on with Deshaun Watson. There's some lines here, that I think you got to really, as he said earlier, dig into the situation. What has been happening? Is it recent? The things that happened 10 years ago when people were just growing, learning, trying to figure out a whole bunch of different things. I think it's hard to hold that against someone, but we've seen so many people lose so much of their value as a person because of things said in the past. And I think that's really scary.
Patrick, would there be anything you'd said in your past that could come back to haunt you? You don't have to tell us what. I'm just, because I think everybody has. So I'm kind of putting you on the spot though.
Oof.
Hold on, I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah.
This 2007. Patrick, I'm on to you.
Comedy career wise, no, I don't think so. But just hanging with the brothers, oh yeah.
Because I know you do practical jokes, right?
Yeah.
I saw you do a practical joke where, I think there was a woman in a hotel and her car had a flat and you got your guys to shake their heads, pretend you're going to steal a car for her, right? Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah.
That could get you in trouble.
That could get you in trouble.
Nowadays, yes.
I did my research.
Yeah, I'm hearing it. Thank you.
Right, Coach? Sorry, go ahead, Patrick.
I want to think that I'm in the clear, but I mean, like you said, something could just pop up one day. I'm sitting on a talk show and then I walk off the show and they're like, yo, man, we need to talk to you for a second. Like, what have I done? It's just, that's the way it could go.
Yeah. Or you're on a podcast, because we just heard today, right? Steve Kerr talked about his years where the Warriors were making the finals and winning in the finals. And he was on this podcast and he said, hey, it was really tough, going through those years. And then the final year where, we had those injuries, 2 season-ending injuries, we lose to the Raptors. It was a really hard season. And the next season, we've got nobody. It's a bunch of young guys. And it was, it was fun to play again because there was no expectations. Mm-hmm. And without listening to the podcast, a bunch of stories come out that, he said he didn't like that year with KD. He had a problem with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, and what you're going to get is people just refuse to speak anymore because they're just going to get run over the coals and everything they say is going to be taken out of context and twisted into some sort of clickbait. That's what's going to happen. Is that what we want? I think that's anti-journalism. I mean, they're creating that environment where no one is going to want to talk to the media at all. You're not going to get a coach on your podcast. You're not going to get people to speak because this is what's they're going to have to pay the price for that. What is that really where we want to go?
And you're going to get people over explaining everything they say.
Right.
Yes.
Yo,
Like
absolutely.
If they finish saying it, they're going to be like, well, this is exactly what I meant. Like, they're going to be over explaining every single thing they say. And it's like, and we're as an audience, everyone watching that is going to start to feel like, yeah, Flip, this is the direction that we're heading in. That's weird.
Coach, I know you've had some press conference, Coach. There's been some heated press conferences. Is there, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a ton. If you go digging, you're going to find.
Yeah.
That's the way
Right?
it is.
And even
We're human. I mean, that's the thing that bothers me. We're human, and I think everybody for the most part comes from a good place until they're pushed too far, and then all of a sudden something comes out and you apologize for it, you move on from it. But what I've learned, you can't move on from it because there's a record of it. And people can go back and dig it up and say, see, this is what you said back then. And it's just unfortunate. I don't, like Jonesy said, I don't think we want it to become that way. Like Patrick said, I don't think we want to over explain it all. Somewhere in the middle is going to be okay. But I just think we're at the extremes right now. And hopefully that changes.
I want to share my experience as a comedian having to deal with this. It certainly affects the material that I do on stage, being a straight white dude. I'm
straight.
I'm a straight white dude. Yeah, straight white dude.
straight
I know.
straight or
I know I'm
straight?
drinking a mango cart beer, but believe me, I'm a straight white dude. I'm gonna get canceled for that.
I think it's
like
did you
Jonesy
notice-
says gay men
Did you
drink
notice- did you
mango
notice-
cart beer. How dare he?
And do you see how he
Explain
stayed
yourself
away?
right now.
Did he
You need-
see how he stayed away from my question, whether it was straight or super straight? Because now you have to clarify that too.
For me, it's created an environment on the stage where if I want to talk about other points of view that I am not, I have to prove to the crowd that I have the credibility to speak about it. So if I want to talk, if I want to poke at, let's just say Catholicism, I have to say I was raised Catholic. That's a quick one. I could say I was raised Catholic, but I'm just giving you a taste of, I would have to justify everything that I'm talking about. If I want to, kind of poke fun at women for a minute, I got to do that. If I want to poke fun of gay men for just a second, I would have to, in other words, almost beg permission. Can I please do this joke? Will you please approve me? And that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of setup. And, when you're on stage for only 10 or 12 minutes, I don't have time to mess around with that much setup in a joke. It's to the point where I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to talk about it because it's going to take me too much time to beg you to laugh at this, to beg you to give me the permission to even speak about this particular point of view, this particular ethnicity, this particular sexual orientation, whatever the case may be, this particular gender. I got to spend so much time begging you to give me permission to do it that it's not worth my time to do the joke. And now I'm kind of pushed into a corner where I got to talk about some shit that's just so me and only me, or so mundane that it's not going to offend anybody. These are kind of the two categories I'm messing with. Thankfully, I do like to talk about my life a lot, and I do that mostly. But it's a little frustrating to be put into the situation where I gotta, and even if I can put enough information out there and get the crowd to, hey, and let's say I make a good argument on how I'm credible to speak about this because I've spent a lot of time with somebody who does that. Okay. The crowds are so lazy in general now. They just hear key terms only and they're already shutting off. So half of them, although I've made a good argument to be credible enough to speak of a subject, half of them won't even come with me anyways because they're just too lazy. They heard some keywords and they're like, nope, this white straight man ain't going to talk about gay men right now. I'm not going to listen to it. And so I'm already losing half the crowd anyways. So I don't even do it, man. I just don't even do it. And it's quite frustrating because as a comedian, I should be able to talk about anything. The comedian's role in the culture is so damn important. It's arguably one of the more important roles in our culture as far as art goes. You know, we are temperature takers in the culture. We can in real time take the temperature of the culture by speaking about a hot topic and getting an immediate reaction. And we can tell what is permissible. Where are the lines drawn right now in the culture? For a long time, you just say the word Hitler and assholes clench up. Whatever you're going to say about it, that's taking the temperature. It's still a very hot button. And comedians can show you where those hot buttons are in the culture. Comedians can show you where it's tender in the culture. You can learn a lot from a comedian. But when you take away our tools to speak to audiences, to talk about what we want to, you're actually hurting the culture. You're hurting progress here. Art is very powerful, transformative tool. And when you take away the tools of the artist, you are debilitating your culture.
And that's right. And that's why I wanted you guys on. And that's why I wanted to talk about these sensitivities and stuff, because it used to be I could go to a show and and whether it was a stereotype, a joke about whatever ethnicity, whatever, we understood that it was in jest. It's in fun. Now, some things are funny because they're true, or some things are funny because you've seen it in real time. It's happened to enough people. And I feel, and that's my fear, is that we can't do that anymore, whether it's, Charles Barkley made a point where the stuff that we used to say in the locker room, we can't say that now. You're dead, right? And it's like, well, hold on. If you take away the locker room chat, you take away the comedy, like, where is the release? Like, do we act like that thing that you just mentioned, where we all are just so clinched all the time that, we walk around like, and we can't smile anymore? And that's my fear. And I see Patrick chomping at the bit, so I'm going to let you take it away, because I feel like you've got something to add.
No, it's so many things that Jonesy said are so on point, because it's true. Like, I mean, I'm lucky that I haven't had to navigate so much in what I do, but I've seen comedians that I work with have to struggle, and the frustration in them, it's like, and my heart goes out to them, because I'm like, man, that's just not fair. Like you said, there used to be a time where you understood the comedian is just coming with jokes. It's just jokes. And some of the jokes ain't for everybody. You leave the show and that was it. But now, if every time a comedian, like, imagine the direction we're heading in, if after the show, a comedian says, I'm not going to do that joke anymore because somebody was offended. You know what I mean? Like,
isn't somebody offended on every joke?
Well,
like, if you think about it, there's literally something in almost every joke.
Sure.
Comedy is very personal. Like, there are some people who absolutely love Chris Rock, and there's some people who don't. It's not for everybody. It's very personal. And if the direction we're heading in, if that level of sensitivity is starting to really affect the way comedians do their work, we're heading in a tough direction. Like you said, man, no one wants to see a comedian have to explain and justify themselves that much before they go into a bit.
Yeah, like, if you got to do 10 minutes of plot buildup to justify why you're making that 2 minute of joke, you probably have a bad show, right?
It's anti-comedy.
Technically, that in itself could be a bit. Like, you could go on stage and for 7 minutes explain why you're going to do the joke.
I'm writing this down.
And then right when you do the joke, it's like, oh, I'm out of town. I'm out of time. Thanks for having me. And you guys have a good night. Just leave.
And the way that people, rip apart comedians that are at the show, and they put a video of, I called the club and said that this guy offended me and he shouldn't be there. Like, this is one of the only arts that you see people actually do that. If you're in a movie theater, right, and you walk into the movie theater and you see it's an uncomfortable rape scene of some sort. You weren't ready for it. Okay. You walk out of the theater, right? Maybe you walk out a little earlier. You don't walk down to the front desk and say, hey, that film in number 12, I want it taken down.
Yeah. Some
no
people
one else
do,
should
Jonesy.
be watching it. This is
Some people do, Jonesy.
This is kind of what you see in stand-up. People do try to cancel these comics for things that they have said on stage. Look at what he said on stage. Meanwhile, everybody's laughing. You can hear it. but this one person was just dissatisfied with it or offended with it. And, I mean, we could all ask why are they at a comedy show in the first place? These sorts of people.
Yeah, if you go to a comedy show, like you're I think you're expecting to go to have a good time and laugh. Am I wrong?
I would imagine.
You think, but our art is one of those arts where it gets the level of respect it gets live. It's very different. People feel that, especially, if you drunk at a show, you got that liquid courage in you and you just saying whatever, it just comes out in the moment. It's like, man, like, come on now. Because it's like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that doesn't happen in any other art form. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, there's one. Coach, who gets heckled more? Bad plays or bad coaches on the field or comedians?
Bad coaches. Not even close.
Talk about
you really
courage, right?
Yeah, you guys really get it hard, man. Hardcore from tens of thousands at the same time sometimes.
Yeah.
My bad, coach. Yeah, you guys get it rough.
Like how many hecklers?
You guys do too, because I've been to some of the shows before, and people are just off the chain. They go too far. You think you're there to have a good time, and they get involved in it. And it's something against one of their friends or something. You're not even talking to their friend, and
shouldn't the structure of a comedy show tell you how to behave?
Yes.
There's many comedians on it because comedy is subjective. So we give you a female comic. We give you, hey, let's throw in, a couple dirty guys, maybe. You usually will get a variety.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. It's because comedy's subjective, and who you like isn't the same person maybe your lover likes or your mother likes. And so can't people just piece it together by looking at the structure of a comedy show? It's so apparent to me. We're giving you a variety. You're not going to like all of it. The ones you don't like, you don't go complain to the manager. The ones you don't like, you don't throw a drink or go up to them after the show and tell them they should quit their job. You don't do that. You just sit there, behave yourself, act like an adult, and wait for the next one.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a survey. How many hecklers in one show has been is it one? Have you ever had more than one heckler in one show in one set?
I've been booed off the stage and taken off an island.
Taken off an island? Did I miss
booed
something?
and I was removed from an island. They put me on. They gave me my check. They put me on a boat. They took me on. We want him off the island. Get him out of here. It was like a reality show.
That's because you make fun of Florida so much, and there was probably a bunch of Floridians there.
The tribe has spoken.
The tribe has spoken. They're like, they voted me off the island. No, I really that absolutely happened.
Here I was going to say you probably have to deal with one or two hecklers, and poor coach had to deal with 10,000 in any given stadium. Like you have a bad game, and
comes with the job. That's just part of it. But at the same time, it does get over the top sometimes.
Yeah,
especially when it starts to, they're in this, they're part of that crowd. And then it becomes, you got to protect your kids, your family. There's players that go through the same thing. It can get a little bit challenging sometimes, but I just wish people who've never either played the sport, coached the sport, did comedy, whatever, let's let them get up there on the stage and come up with some material and see what that's like and go through what you guys go through, your process of how hard you work to put together great material. People have no clue.
Yeah, I think it was an episode of Seinfeld, right, where he just got mad that he was being heckled and he went to the guy's job and started like, you can't do that in any other profession. Hey, Subway guy, you don't know how to put those tomatoes on that salami. You suck. Like, you can't do that.
You call that a sandwich?
You call that a sandwich? Couldn't imagine doing it. So we all agree we need to cancel. Is that?
Yeah.
Is there anybody who disagrees with that?
No.
All right, I'm going to just do a round table, one kind of parting shot for everybody. Coach, anything that we missed that you wanted to?
No, I don't think we missed anything. Obviously, the Deshaun Watson thing is near and dear to my heart. I've always believed where there's smoke, there's smoke. Concern for the young man, concern for all the victims, the potential victims, I should say, is one man's opinion. I have seen this, not the particular acts, but I just know players when they're going through tough times, the losing and the things that he dealt with, and maybe losing some players, and things come out in different ways. I just have seen that with athletes. I've seen that with just people in everyday life, because you're going to go find your wins, some kind of way. And I just hate it that if that's how he's finding his wins, then to me, that's something that's tracked back into his childhood, his early, his early age. And I just hope for him, if that is the case, that he gets the help he needs and that he can recover from it. But I'm really concerned for him because he's one of our very talented minority quarterbacks who are playing in the league, so, and I'm, like I said, also concerned for the victims if what they say happened.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you've said that before, where when you start to lose on the field, you need to go get your wins in other places.
Yep.
But then it's so odd because I've talked to some people down in Houston, and a lot of them have told me off the record, he's such a nice guy. He's such a good guy. He's, very respectful. One person, I don't want to make the direct quote because it might be obvious who he was, but said basically wherever he goes, his girl is there with him. So there's like, I can't believe that this was happening because she's there with him all the time. But at the same time, you can't just push aside this many allegations, right? Because as a girl dad, as a guy, I have a daughter. If something happens, I want people to listen to the story and look into it. I would hate to think that any of these or some of these are false claims, but you got to listen to both sides, I think, and that's something that's key. And like to your point, Coach, yeah, if there is something more, definitely get him some help if that is the case, for sure. Jonesy, you've been the star of the show, Jonesy. I just want you to know.
Oh, no. We're all stars of this show, Anthony. You got such a lineup here of superstars. I'm so pleased and just honored to be a part of it. Stand-up comedy has not really come back the way that I've done 5 shows in the past year, unfortunately. So I just want to say how grateful I am that sports is still happening. I enjoy watching it and I enjoy talking about it so very much. The past year, I've been watching a lot, reading books on sports, and it's kind of saved me the past year because I haven't been able to really do comedy the way, other than my podcast, I really haven't been able to do live stand-up comedy, which really is my passion. So I'm grateful for sports. So I'm grateful for podcasts like yours as well. So
I got to jump in and tell you, since you say thankful for sports. So my brother works as a freelancer. He does audio for like ESPN, and he goes, like, he's down doing the NCAA tournament right now.
Awesome.
And when he first started heading out, right, of course, he got some grief for traveling, right, because he has a family and he's going around, and they were worried about him getting COVID. And his response was always, listen, it's guys like, he made himself seem like he was a first responder, which he is not, where he's like, hey, it's guys like me who are bringing you sports so you could be entertained while you're stuck on your couch in your house. And he felt very proud about that. So
he's right. He's absolutely right.
I'll pass along the message from you.
He's right, man. I mean, the NBA in the bubble last year, unbelievable. It saved my life, man. I mean, and then the NFL season happened. The entire thing happened. I'm waiting for it to go down and not happen. Like, just to be cut mid-season, and like, no, they're still going. I'm like, there was no break. It was just go.
They did it. They found a way.
Man, it was so great. I was so happy, so damn happy. It saved me, man.
Yeah, sports really saved me too, because I'm the same, Jonesy. In the last year, I've done a handful of shows. Only 2 of them were paid, so it's been
a shame,
right? It's a weird time. So sports through this has been phenomenal. You see me here. This is my couch. This is me at least 8 hours a day trying to work stuff out, watching podcasts and watching YouTube videos and still trying to come up with material. But you can't work out new material on a Zoom show.
Yeah.
No, you cannot. I've tried it. I agree with you.
You can't gauge that. So you're still writing, but it's a struggle. So sports has been a lifesaver for real.
Yeah. And you're probably, and both of you, from what I know, do write a lot about kind of your experience. How much experience are you having sitting on your couch? Like, other than talking about being locked up with COVID.
Right.
Yep.
And then on the other side of this, when you're on stage, that you do not want to bombard the audience with COVID jokes. Right? Coming out of it, like, if things get back to a certain level of normalcy as far as performing live, you get a full audience in front of you. One of the last things they're going to want to hear about is COVID.
Yes.
No, we're coming to your show to forget about COVID.
Mhm.
You're coming to the show
Yeah.
to forget about the mess that we just seen on the news every single day, 24 hours a day. You want something else. So as far as like what kind of experiences you're going to bring and the things you're going to talk about, you got to find a real sense of creativity right now to think about and bring something else to the table when the time is. So it's yeah.
Yeah, everyone who knows me knows I'm a bit of an optimist and knows that I feel like we're coming out of it, which is very exciting for me. The draft coach, they said that, and correct, I heard that they're in Cleveland, they're just going to just back to normal draft the way they've kind
They're
of
gonna,
always done it.
yeah. Mhm.
Does that scare you a little bit?
It does. I mean, because the problem is you don't know what other people do. Now, even though I know they got to be tested when they come in, there could be false tests, there could be all kind of things. You just don't know. I thought last year it was a hit, having the players be at home on Zoom. I thought it was better than the normal draft, to be very honest with you. So I would rather travel that way, personally. But at the same time, I think the league's going to do what it needs to do to make more money. And that's true. At the end of the day, it's all about the dollar.
I hate to say it, and it could have been good material for these two guys, but I was really expecting something to happen, right? Someone to be caught with their pants down, someone's internet to fail, but it kind of went off without a hitch. Like there really wasn't anything, unfortunately, that went wrong. They did such a good job producing that. So yeah, it's definitely definitely a hit.
I got to thank both Patrick and Jonesy for what they do. Just hearing their stories that's just unfortunate. And I hope that we do get back to some normalcy because both of you guys are very good at what you do. You deserve to be able to stand in front of the audiences like you have before and woo them. And please, you guys are still very valuable people. I appreciate what you do because I know it takes a lot of work to do what you do. And I hope everybody appreciates what you guys bring to the table.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Coach.
And we need you guys, right? Because we're all going to be seeing therapists, and we're going to need to laugh. We're going to need to laugh. So, other than therapy, I think comedians are going to be the second most important occupation coming out of this thing. So remember to check out Patrick Hay. It's HAYE.com, and then Jonesy's podcast is Weird AF News, which Jonesy, I know it's daily, and I try to get as much as I can because some of the stories, let me tell you, there are times when I'm like, there's no way. And I actually go and check if that story is real. And there are some things that people do that are just beyond me. So
So for your listeners, he's referring to my daily weird podcast, weirdafnews.com, where I do 3 weird news stories from around the world every day. And on Friday, I only do weird news from Florida. It's called Florida Friday. I don't know if you know the shenanigans that go down in Florida, but it's crazy and people love to hear about it. So yeah, Weird AF News. The world is just getting stranger and stranger, it seems. And so you get to hear some of that on my podcast.